Hi everyone, I'm back, and today I'd like to share with you how I made this summary card using brushstroke stamps from Penny Black. The stamp that I used today was a cling stamp from a while back, but it's called Light Touches, and you know, I think it's such a pretty summer image that I wanted to make a card to share with you today. So my card uses that stamp, and for my greeting I have also one other stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. This is an older one too. I chose it because it had the word sunshine, but ended up using just that little hello in this stamp set. So that's called Color and Sunshine by Simon Says Stamp. The other things I used to make this card today were some dies, and I used my basic stitch rectangle die from Simon Says Stamp's bundle of stitch shapes. I also used this Simon Says Stamp die that makes a thin frame, and I'll put the numbers and everything in the description below on all the things that I used today. But this is I think it's just called frames. And then in addition to that, there's a little sunshine die that I have from, I think this was also included in one of the Simon Says Stamps card kits. In addition to that, today I wanted to try out my new Karin Pro Brushmarkers, and because they're water-based, I thought they would work really nicely for these brushstroke stamps. So let's give it a try. Okay, so what I've done is I've removed the foam piece from my Misty and put in a piece of my Canson XL watercolor paper. And I'm going to just, before I get started, take a little water, and I have one of those mini pulverizers from Ranger, which gives a really fine mist, and I'm just going to mist my paper just to make it more receptive to the colors. Then what I'm going to do is start with my flowers and use my lightest color of the Karin Pro Brushmarkers, and I'm using pale pink, and I'm just going to place this pale pink in all the areas of my geraniums here where there's color. So just a thin coating. Doesn't have to be exact because we're going to come back with other colors, but in those areas where there's pink, I'm going to just go and add this marker. Like I said, it can be pretty haphazard because we're going to be adding more color as we go along here. Alright, so that's the pale pink. I'm going to close my Misty on that and give it some pressure. Maybe just leave it there for a little bit so that it actually has a chance to pick up the coloring. Okay, then I'm going to actually pick that up. Doesn't look like much yet, but hold on. Now I'm going to skip to my leaves, and I'm going to put in the lightest color of green that we're going to use on the leaves. And this color is apple, just apple. 210 apple, and I'm just going to place this again on my leaves. Doesn't have to be exacting. We're going to add more color, but just go over all those areas where the green leaves would be and the stems. And I'm coloring it right to my stamp. Try to avoid the red areas a little bit because, you know, the red and the green together make brown, and we don't want too much brown on this. Okay, so it doesn't have to be exact, and then we're going to put the same thing. Put a little pressure, hold it there a little bit so it can pick up some of that green. Then I'm going to pull it back up again. And I'm going to go over again with more of the mid-range red that we're going to use, and this is lipstick red. And you don't have to go into all the spots that you did before, just sort of areas where you would think the flower might be a little bit darker, or where you want it to be darker. Just go in with this. Doesn't have to be full coverage at this point. We're just getting some color in. Okay, and we're going to go back over it again and give it a little pressure and hold it down, and then we'll open it up. And as you can see, it's starting to pick up some depth there, and you can also see the spots where you've missed. You know, we're going to now alternate and go back to green again. So now we can add a little bit more of the dark green in the areas of the stamp where the green is missing. And also around the edges of some of the leaves, and maybe pick out a couple of leaves that would be like in the background and give it a little more detail there where there would be shadows or different areas of the leaf. And maybe just down one side of your stem here. And don't worry, because we can come back and do more of this. So I'm going to hold that down again and up again. All right. Again, we can go back in now with the darkest color for our flowers, and this darkest color is burgundy. And again, I'm just going to go into some selective areas, you know, sort of dotting some different colors in there. Doesn't have to be a total coverage, maybe something around the edges so that you sort of defines the flower more. Nothing exacting on this thing at all, so whatever floats your boat when it comes to the flowers. Okay, and then we're going to give it another stamp down and give it a little press and see how we're doing. Go. Now you can see that the flower is picking up a lot more definition there. So now we can scoot over to the butterfly and add the lightest color for the butterfly. And this color is called Canary. So this is a nice yellow. And I'm just going to avoid the spot in the center where the body is going to be, because we're going to put in a darker brown there. So we have our butterfly in the yellow. Again, we're going to give it a stamp over here, give it a good push, and bring it back up again. At this point, we could add the brown in the butterfly, maybe, or just let's let that dry for a minute and work on the leaves just a little bit more. What you can do with the leaves at this point too is you could take a paintbrush with a little bit of water and just come in. It's not a very wet paintbrush, but we're going to come in here and just add a little bit, spread that color around a little. Just like so, and then we can let that dry a little bit more, and then we can come back in again with the stamp if we like. And for the flower, I think it needs some more of the mid-tone, so I'm going to go back in again with a little more of the mid-tone or the red lipstick. We don't want to cover up all the light areas, but you know, you want to give it some dimension and depth of color. So we're going to go back in with a little bit more of that mid-tone color and give it another stamping here. Like so, I think is pretty good. All right, now the butterfly's a little bit more dry, so I'm going to go in with some orange, and we're going to define the butterfly around the edges and toward the center with a little bit of this orange color. Like so. And I hope I'm not going off of the camera here. It's kind of hard to work in the space so that you can see. Then I'm taking that brown, a dark brown. This is sepia, and I'm going to go in with the sepia and put in some detail in my butterfly. There we go, just like so. We could actually add even just a little bit of definition to his wings along the outside edges a little with the sepia. And put this back in like this. Okay, so there you go. You see it gives more definition to our butterfly. And if you're happy with the way this looks, we could add a little bit more, looks like a little more green right in here. And that red is more dry now, so you could add this green without muddying it up so much right in here. Right there, like so. There you go. So if you're happy with the way that looks, you know, with watercolor, it's like, where do you start? You know, where do you stop? If you didn't want as much definition in this, you definitely can mist it again and get those colors to blend a little bit better. But I kind of like the way that looks right now, so I'm going to just leave that and take it out of my misty. And then what I'm going to do is just to add a little bit of splatter. And to do that, I'm going to use my acrylic block here and a paintbrush with some water. And let's get one of the darker reds that we used. This is the burgundy. I'm going to scribble it right onto my block, and then I'm going to put water, get a nice little bit of water on my brush, and then just flick it off of the edges to give a little more of this little splatter color. Not too much. I don't want, that's enough. I don't like too much there. And I'm going to do the same thing with the green. Put another little bit of splash of green in there with the darker green. And I take my paintbrush with some water. And I want to try to avoid getting it right on my butterflies and flowers, but just a little green in there would be nice, I think. I think that's good. There. Okay, so now that we finished our panel, what I plan to do next is just to cut my frame out of the panel here. So I'm going to just position my stitch frame here and put a little bit of washi tape to hold it in place. And then the idea is to make like a second little very thin cutout frame to go around it as an accent. So I want to place this so that that is lined up with my other one, and I'm just going to put it through the, I'm going to put it right through the die cutting machine. I'll be right back. Okay, so I took it to my die cutting machine, and we'll take the tape off here. What you're going to end up with is this panel with this little tiny thin frame, and this we're not going to use. Sometimes, you know, when I'm using a different kind of colored cardstock or something, you know, this little frame is, you know, just would be, you could do it in black and put it around, but I find it's just easier to mount this directly to the card and sort of leave a deboss rather than like the same with that. So my card base that I cut from a black heavyweight cardstock, and it measures 9 by 5 3/4, and I'm going to score it at 4.5. So this makes like an A6 size card, like so. Because what I wanted to do is have it to a little black border all the way around. So about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. I already placed some tape runner onto this frame, and it's just going to go right here like so. And then our center panel is going to go right in like that, so that you get that decorative like border around the edge. A nice thin decorative border. What I'm going to do is use a tape runner around the perimeter of my panel, and then in the center I'm going to use like a higher tack, like a score tape here in the center and a diagonal, just to make sure that it stays put. It's easier to place than score tape all the way around, but it's also going to stay really where we put it. So let me just remove the backing from my score tape here. And we're just going to place this so we have that little really tiny thin border all the way around as an accent. Okay, so that's the center panel, and all we need to do now is to put in our greeting. I'm going to use like part of this little color and sunshine set, and I think let's just put in the little hello. We're going to try that. So I'm going to put that little tiny hello. Really cute. Let me line it up on my Misty. Keep that in place and put our little hello word here. There we go, that looks straight. And we're going to use my black Versafine black Onyx ink. It's a really nice black. We're just going to ink up that hello. There. Really tiny little hello there. But then what we're going to do to finish it off is we're going to put this sunshine word right below it. So it's going to read hello sunshine. And the way I did this little die is it's a die from Simon. One of their older dies. I think this one actually came in one of their monthly kits too. I'll put the numbers and everything on my blog and in the description below so that you know about this little die, but it just makes this cute word sunshine. So what I did is I cut it 3 times from black cardstock, and on the 3rd time I cut it, but before taking the letters out I actually put some Versamark ink on it and some clear embossing powder to sort of give it that shine, so that it's going to stand out on the card. Then I'm just going to put a couple of touches of the multimedia map. That's what I'm using here on the back. I have a hard time talking when I'm gluing and coloring, but just some teeny little drops here, just enough to keep it in place. And I also always see everybody use their reverse tweezers. You know, I'm going to try it. I'm really bad about not doing this and using my fingers, but this time we're going to try it. You know, it actually does work better than just trying to pick it up with my fingers. Okay, so then I think that gives it a nice thing, but instead of trying to put that little tiny dot together, I have a black glaze pen, you know, glaze pen from Gellyroll, and what I'm going to do is just put in my dot with this black glaze pen. I think it's going to match the color. Do you ever do this, like to get these started? You go on my hand, and it usually works to get it started. Artists are not neat, so okay. So I think that just adds my little eye, and I'm going to call that card done. So, you know, I hope that, you know, you got some ideas and some tips that you might be able to use in your cards, and that you were inspired to do something creative. So yeah, so if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will be back again hopefully next week with another card inspiration for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.